we did it. Yes. Well, first, I would love to just honor everybody who just took the time to join us today and listen and hear about just Frank's work, which is just fantastic. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who's just taking a couple minutes out of their time to hear about music and health and how there's so much intersectionality and cross-pollination that can really help you mentally, physically, and through all areas of your life. So first and foremost, I am so excited to have Frank join me, Frank Fitzpatrick. And so he is the CEO and founder of Amplified Future. When I talk about all of the amazing things that you bring forward, Frank, it's so hard to even encapsulate it because there's so many pieces. So an author, a composer, a healer. I want to stress that as well. And just really putting music in so many different areas to help people. And I think that is our connection of how we were able to build such a quick and in-depth friendship just because of your intent and your ongoing pursuit just to really showcase how music can help people and really bring that forward. So it's a pleasure to have you join me. And I also want to say he is up for a Grammy. So congratulations on that. So Frank, if you want to take a couple of minutes just to introduce yourself, that would be fantastic.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Mayo. And first, I want to just say, it's always an honor to be in your presence. You're a rock star and you're doing so much in the field of health and you're doing so much to help those in need and to really bring some levels of equanimity in the midst of chaos and some levels of equality in the midst of, when people are putting up walls around the world and that includes in healthcare. And it's not easy. And, you're a warrior out there. Really, really appreciate that. And it's really always an honor to spend time here. And thank you for everybody who's here and anybody who's followed her knows what I'm talking about. And so anything, hopefully whatever we bring forth today is in service of you and your work and those who are here with us today. I can talk a little bit about myself. I don't like to talk about myself much, but I'll give you a little bit of background. I guess the music, I've been on a mission for a long, long time to help people redefine their relationship with music. And I can tell you where that came from and also to help people have the tools to find calm in the eye of the storm, to find kind of peace in themselves in the midst of chaos and distraction and confusion and stress. And the music is one of those tools of which there are many other ones we can integrate it with and also to help people ultimately flourish and find out who they are and, use it to redefine their relationship with themselves and the ones they love and in their work and their purpose. So that's why I do the work. That's what guides me and also to, work with amazing people like yourself. Mm-hmm. So, and I think, for an origin piece, I grew up in Detroit, which was an amazing city in the 60s and 70s and part of the kind of Motown era for people, anybody on the call who remembers that far back or, so but then Detroit hit a really bad time. So when I was, 11, 12 years old, I can honestly say that, with what was going on in the streets and what was going on in the city and the collapse in all the areas that were still, trying to find balance for in the world, but the chaos that was there and being a sensitive being, that I wouldn't be standing on or talking to you today if music didn't become my drug of choice. So I decided by the time I was 12 that I was going to go out into the world and help other kids and people across the world to find their tools and use music as a tool to help them, find that equanimity in the midst of chaos, and to find themselves when they feel lost in a world that doesn't see them.
And how you highlight those pieces of what music can offer, and as well as that, what it did for you, I think is so powerful. And I really love how you share in all of your work, whether it's in a movie or different places, you share how music is very transformational. It really can take you to different places in your life, whether it's current or the past, and also just help you with whatever you might be struggling with or celebrating with. And just kind of put you in a new place. And one piece that I love to just kind of highlight out of all of the, of course, other amazing things, there's something in your book, or there's a page that I read, Frank, that really was telling for me. And I think anyone listening will be able to resonate. And there's a part in your book where you share how when you hear a song, it can take you to an exact moment in your life, whether it was a good time, a bad time, or something that you were struggling with, and how that song can identify so many different layers of who you are and where you were at that time. And so when you look at that kind of fundamental piece and you kind of uncouple all of those areas of how music helps people, it's really easy to see how that bridge of healing and just helping people with whatever you're experiencing, how music can be so vital to your everyday life. And I would just love for you to kind of highlight that as well.
Well, I'll highlight kind of on the piece of how it takes us back to a place, and it, so vividly and so viscerally, in the way that other things can't, or don't. And part of that is, and it usually, often that's times during really, either really celebratory times or really, as you mentioned, which we are always trying to do, and or really traumatic times or just challenging times. So part of that is, especially during our developmental years of our brain and our, all those when we're younger, say from the ages of 11, 12 up to about 22, when the neurochemicals and hormones are running rampant, and the emotions are connected to the thoughts and are connected to the experiences, and those experiences get embedded into, because of music, into multiple areas of our brain. So even something like Alzheimer and dementia, that certain areas of cognitive decline or diseases that can remove or block memories or block associations, don't block all of those areas. They don't affect all those areas. So it's just so, and we are usually drawn back to, again, those really neural rich times when we're in development, and we're usually, in a way that can be very, very visceral and vivid and healing, because it's often during times that are either bringing back that gratitude and that celebratory, that nostalgia moment, and or helping us to heal that same wound that's reappearing in our life at the time. And that's just because of the complexity of which music encodes itself into our system, especially if it's music we love, and especially if it's during these, very heightened emotional times, so.
And, and I think often we forget when we are, even from like a disease process and illness. You and I talked about how I have often shared with my patients to utilize music as in a prescriptive way. And that's why I was also just so excited to have this conversation, which I'm hopeful that this is one of many, because there's so many different layers to really talk about how music can, play a role in your everyday life. But as a physician, I find it so helpful to really help, my patients, whatever they're going through, to kind of think about reaching out for that form of a health tool or resource. And it should be part of our kind of health literacy, because when you think about how, whether you're watching a movie, whether you're listening to, a song, it can take you to a whole different place. And we know that the mind it is so powerful when it comes to healing, and mental health is part of physical health. And so why not use something that is readily available that can really help you physically and mentally? And I think that's a huge part when we talk about that bridge of health and music, that we need to kind of put that forward, whether it's in clinics, hospitals, every place, because it really can be therapeutic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hit it on the nose, and one of the things that you set up, in the health literacy, that, it should be like many other things, and it's not. Doctors aren't taught, and, it should be in every kid's, if every kid by the age of 7 could be taught of how they can use music, and now they have the world's music in their pocket at any moment to help them make more friends so they don't feel alone, to help them shift their mood when they start to get distracted or depressed, to help them get motivated when they don't want to get up off the couch and away from the television, to help them in all these different, and to help them relieve stress or process grief. I mean, these are not very difficult things to teach, but we don't teach them, we don't. So we typically come to them in our lives, and most people come to them in our lives by default, right? We eventually start to listen to music because it's fun and entertaining, and then we start to go through moments in our life when we lean into it a little bit because it works in certain ways that other things don't for us. But if we took the effort and built it into the structures of not only, in medical school all the way down to elementary school and then everybody would know exactly the tools, how to use the tools for other ways than just for entertainment, and it's, this is some of the things I try to, elicit in the book and in my work, because it's not, you talk a lot about in your work about democratizing health and, bringing it to people who don't have other resources. Well, anybody who has, a radio or an iPhone or a phone or any kind of source that makes music has this great medical device in their pocket, for mental health or physical health in so many different ways, and where it's going in the future and where it can go in the future with the new technologies, once we understand that and we help people understand the foundation of it, is really, really incredible, because we've only really scratched the surface because we've kept it at such a surface level for so long.
Absolutely. When I think of the forecast to come with the opportunity to have music, in areas, it's so exciting. But then I also think of, from an equitable lens, how in the book you identify, because we talk about not everyone has iPhones, not everyone has technology, but what we do have is the capabilities or the ability to create music ourselves. And I think that part is also something we need to talk about. So even if you don't have, internet or a phone, there's the opportunity to clapping your hands, whistling, singing, all of these things that are built, that we have to put forward to create a tune, can also happen. And so there's opportunity for the future, but there's also opportunity right now based on whatever your situation is. There's something you can do. And I think that's an important piece to elevate.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's true. I mean, because we've turned music into such a performance medium and a commodity, people have a lot of self-judgment over their ability to make music, or what they're making music for, or what makes music good or bad. But music doesn't judge us, right?
Yes.
It loves us unconditionally. It's a higher form of intelligence, and it's in our bodies. It's encoded in us, and anybody can sing. It doesn't matter whether you sing to somebody's pitch or on tune or a particular melody. Anybody can, and by moving, that energy is such a healing power. Anybody can. Not everybody can move, maybe, but most people can move their body and dance. And dance is just music physically in motion. So. I think I told you once about my dear friend, Emmanuel Jaw, who's from the, very war-torn part of the world, Darfur. And I asked him once in a conversation, I said, growing up in such horror, basically, we talk about stress, but he grew up in horror. Mm-hmm. And I said, how did you cope? And he said, well, when we didn't have food, we would sing and dance to fill our bellies. And when we had food and we got food, then we would sing and dance to celebrate. So it works on both sides of the celebratory piece, as you mentioned before, and the kind of the survival coping piece. And it's quite, that's a dramatic side, but we don't all have that kind of drama in our life, but our systems don't know it when we're going through the drama. And it's true. And you don't need any technology. It's been being done for thousands and thousands and thousands of years before we had any of these technologies. So you're right, it is already completely democratized. And the main thing that gets in the way is people's judgment around the creating of music. But we're all creators. That's the human species. It's a creative species. And we all have we all make sound, and we can all move our bodies. So we're all music making machines, whether we don't need machines to make music, right? So thank you for bringing that up.
That is so true. It's part of us, that it's, ingrained with us every minute, every day. And it's all about what you choose to kind of do with it, or try to do with it in whatever circumstance you're facing. And, I'm also just excited to talk about, when you talk about the wellness space, Frank, and all the things that you've been able to bring forward to really integrate music. So can you share with everyone some of the things that you have worked on and some of the things that you are working on now? Because I think it's important that we add this to our resources when we're talking about health and wellness and just overall well-being.
So I don't want to take up so much of our time, but I will touch on a couple things that are happening in this moment. One is so the album that's out now and that's under up for Grammy nomination. It's not there yet, so don't let's just keep it moving. Share it if you can. So that album, it was a bit of a healing piece. It had a healing cycle. I'll tell a quick story on it, because the purpose with which we create and the intention from which we create or we sing or we make music is as powerful and as important as the product of what we create. So it's so several years ago, one of my best friends died of MS. And he was, my closest friend in life, the guy, who understood when nobody understood. And you know what I'm talking about, when you have just like, when you're just, nobody seems to see you, and they see you and they don't have any judgment and they celebrate you. And so it was and he was kind of this unapologetically himself kind of guy, didn't really care what So after he passed, I thought to myself, well, what would he want me to do? What could I do to celebrate? And I thought, well, he would want me to do something that I would be afraid to do and that I've never done. And also having somebody pass so young, kind of get off, what's on my bucket list that I keep putting back. So I've made lots of records and I've made lots of films, and I've worked with a lot of amazing jazz artists over my career, from Miles Davis. I can go through a list, but I won't. But I always wanted to make my own jazz album, which is what this project is that's out now. And it's the first one I've made that's specifically of my own making. And but I would never do it because it wasn't, I had that judgment we were talking about before. It's not going to be commercially successful. How am I going to make money off of it? What's the point of doing this? Nobody, who's going to pay for it? All this, blah, blah, blah. So when I removed the judgment, I just said, okay, what would he want me to do? He'd want me to do, just be unapologetic about doing that. It took still to, drive that purpose forward even further. It took another 10 years to get it all, out to where we are today with the release. But at the same time, it's really just channeling that deep intention and that desire for healing and the desire for embracing the preciousness of life in the creative process, for carrying the legacy of the love of my friend, and for putting that out into the world, breaking through the fears that might keep me from doing so. And I think that's just a metaphor for all of us. It's not really about me. It's just, sometimes it takes these moments in our lives that are tragedies, but gifts at the same time, to move us forward through pieces. And this was so that, the bigger accomplishment is not that I have a record out in the marketplace. It's that I've broke through that, I've carried through on that energy flow in the purpose of what I do. And then I'll bring another piece you mentioned right before we got on the call, which is, diversity in music, right? Mm-hmm. So if we look at the science around music, and people are always asking me, well, which music should I listen to do this? Which music? Well, preference and our musical identity and what we love is as important in our healing process, even it shows up, you can measure it scientifically, as the elements within the music, right? So it's the intention and the connection it makes to our own identity and our own. So, people, this is basically a jazz record in the style of a kind of Miles Davis quintet of that era. But at the same time, I can assure you that if you like that style or anything close to that style, it will be a healing record because it has healing intentions. It's made with, with the quality of the best that I know from my 40 years in the space of creating. But it's so people would go, because people always think, oh, you need like new age music to de-stress, Well, everybody has their own, that's what's so beautiful about music. It is so personalized. Yeah. And in its personalization is its precision for medicine.
To say that again, Frank. I think that's so powerful. We forget about it,
Right.
It is so true.
I mean, how many drugs do we get? How many things do we put out into the world that are that personalized, right? Where we get to choose. Like, is there 100,000 forms of aspirin? No, there's two or three, and they work for a certain percentage of people to some degree, and for less for others. But here, you actually get to choose what actually works for you, and you get to choose, right?
It's prescriptive. It's personalized.
Right.
And when you think of just like that concrete imagery or that connection, it's memorialized within you.
Right.
And you just have to, find that tune or find what works. And like you said, it's not always consistent to the one thing, but I think being available or inviting it or welcoming is a great word, to it will allow you to really make strides for your own personal journey. So I am so glad that you joined me, Frank. I think we're going to do, this is going to be one of many.
Okay.
I see some people, I see some DMs and some other things wanting to know more and learn more. And I think there's an opportunity for us to continue to share all of the amazing things that music and health and wellness and all of those things that can help people throughout their life. So maybe we'll have part 2, part 3. Everybody let us know what your thoughts are.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And people can find a lot of the information in my latest book, which is at Amplified.
And it's fantastic.
Yeah. Amplifiedbook.com, and I think we'll share that. And then if you want to hear the record, we'll share that link after as well. But I want people to have their own journey, and the key is to really make it their own. And one last thing, I won't get into this. This will be a teaser for our next conversation, but where we're going now with the technology and what we're developing is pretty mind-blowing, because now we'll be able to use the technology to prove the science and make you the lab in the wild, so you can know at any given time when you listen to something or what you've listened to that's helped you heal specifically areas of your system or your emotions or your biology. So we're getting into these measurable feedback loops where music will become the personalized precision medicine, and sound as well. There's a whole other world of that where we're already doing non-invasive brain surgery with sound alone. So it's a pretty exciting time ahead. I don't want to, get people off track too much. But that's where I'm really excited, is like the evolution of the potential where we can go to really help people.
Well, I'm glad we bring that up, because we keep hearing about wearables, all of these things to do my heart rate and all of those things. But we also have the ability to use music right in that moment to have a calming effect or to have a ramp up kind of pep. And, one thing that I really appreciated in your book was how you highlighted, often people are like, yes, I have this playlist that really gets me going for whatever thing that I'm going to, try to achieve. And through your work and studies, you actually were able to show that it doesn't have to necessarily be this kind of upbeat song or certain music style that can actually increase performance. And I think that's a new thing that people don't think about. And you were able to really highlight that actually sometimes songs that have a slower tempo or a different kind of rhythm actually produce more energy, more creativity. And so I think on the next talk, we'll also speak about that because, again, there's so much more to unwrap when we think of music and its powerful impact on our lives. So I just want to say thank you for joining me.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And definitely on par to when I talk about delivering care beyond clinical walls. This is exactly what I love, and in an equitable manner of really trying to highlight opportunities, things that people can use in every day of their lives. So thank you, Frank, for this. Thank you. This was wonderful. And I appreciate everyone who just took the time, whether it was just a couple of minutes, just to tune in to hear, and we'll more to come. So This is Dr. BCW. Thank you. And thank you again, Frank.
Thank you. So blessed to be here. Thank
All right.
you.
And check out his album, please. Yeah. Check it out. It's fantastic.
Right.
So
we'll save this for people who come back later. So
yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
All right.
Bye. Have a beautiful day.
You too. All right. Now I have to figure out how to stop being live so everyone can hear us. This is behind the scenes. Oh, that wasn't it. Okay. Here we go.